So guys, we are back with another round of portfolio reviews, and I can't tell you how excited I am for this one. We've got a few really interesting portfolios on deck today, and we're going to go under the hood to take a look at each one. We'll check out all the holdings, and I'll give you my honest thoughts on what I like about these portfolios, as well as what I think could be improved. And as we're going through these, guys, please keep in mind that I am by no means a professional. These are just my very amateur opinions, so definitely take them with a grain of salt, and remember that at the end of the day, this is all just for fun. Now, real quick, before we get into it, if you want to have your portfolio reviewed by me in one of these videos, just fill out the form I have linked in the description. And also, as we're going through these, leave a comment below and let me know what you think about these portfolios. I'd be very curious to get your feedback on these as well. Now guys, getting into our first portfolio of the day, this one belongs to my friend Odie, who's pretty new to the investing game. Odie's been investing for less than a year, and apparently Odie has a relatively short time horizon. According to this, Odie hopes to live off dividends sometime in the next 5 to 10 years, which is not long at all, and every single month Odie is investing anywhere between $100 to $500, so quite the spread there. And in the notes here, Odie says, "I've been investing the majority of my salary since I've had almost no bills and financial responsibilities," which is awesome. Good job. Odie says, "I'm trying to diversify my portfolio with both US and European stocks and ETFs. I'd like to know if it's over-diversified and if one or more stocks don't fit with the overall image of the portfolio." Now guys, let me just say before we take a look at the portfolio, this is definitely one of the most interesting ones that we've looked at in this video series, and by far this portfolio has more holdings than any of the other ones we have seen yet. Now guys, Odie has shared their portfolio with us over here on Snowball Analytics, which is hands down one of my favorite portfolio trackers. And if you guys are looking for a portfolio tracker with as many bells and whistles as you can get your hands on, then Snowball would be the one that you're looking for. And the cool thing is you can actually try out Snowball Analytics for free. In the description of the video and in the pinned comment, there's a link to a 14-day free trial. I highly recommend you check it out. I think you guys are really going to like it. But anyway, back to Odie's portfolio here, just looking at some of the overall stats. It's valued at about $3,300, and so far Odie is down about 0.1% in their portfolio, and it's been a few crazy months, so we have to give Odie a little bit of grace for that, and they're relatively new to the game, so just based on the timeline of when they started investing, you know, this total profit, or the slight loss we're seeing rather, makes sense. And as far as the dividend stats go, it looks like Odie has about a 3.1% yield across the entire portfolio with about an 11% growth rate, and these are pretty good dividend stats. Now, like I said a moment ago, guys, this portfolio has more holdings by a long shot than any other portfolio we have looked at so far. And if we just look at the diversification breakdown right here, we can see that there are 45 stocks in the financial sector. There are 29 different ETFs. There are 34 consumer discretionary stocks, 15 technology stocks, 11 real estate, 12 other stocks. I'm not even exactly sure what that entails. We've got 12 consumer staples stocks, 11 healthcare stocks, and the list goes on and on, guys. So, you know, clearly there is quite the spread here. And in total, across this entire portfolio, there are 119 different holdings, 90 of which are individual companies, with the remaining 29 being ETFs. And if we just scroll down the entire list here, this is what we're rocking with. We'll see a lot of recognizable names here. Fortunately for Odie, a lot of these are, you know, the big blue chip stocks, a lot of familiar recognizable names. So there doesn't look to be anything too sketchy. I think throughout these we will see probably some questionable stocks and ETFs. That's to be expected just based on the number of holdings, but we are seeing a lot of the bigger blue chip companies, so I am happy to see that. With that said though, Odie, there are undeniably too many holdings in this portfolio, and truth be told, there's really no point in having all of these different holdings, all of these different stocks and ETFs. If you're going to have this level of diversification, you're much better off just investing in ETFs. And the reason I say that is because the more holdings you have, the more your portfolio's returns will mirror those of the entire stock market. So in my opinion, you're better off just getting that same broad market exposure through a couple of different ETFs, maybe even just one ETF, instead of owning all of these individual companies outright. And if it is broad market diversification that you're after, which I'm guessing is the case just based on all of the different holdings we're seeing here, then just having a couple different ETFs in your portfolio is going to be a much more simple and straightforward way to accomplish that and get that broad market diversification. Now, with that said, in your notes, you did mention that you want to have exposure to both US and European stocks. And a very simple way for you to accomplish that with just a couple of different ETFs would be to just invest in something like VUAG here, which is an S&P 500 fund, or VUSA, which is also an S&P 500 fund. You can go either way. They're more or or less the same thing from my understanding. Or if we scroll down just a little bit more, you could go all in on VWRL, which holds almost 4,000 stocks all around the world. So that would definitely give you that broad international exposure that you're looking for. So overall, Odie, it looks like you've got a little bit of work to do, my friend. And if this was my portfolio, as much as it sucks to liquidate everything and start from scratch, I can't help but think that that's the best way forward from here. If you wanted to, there'd be nothing wrong with holding on to a small handful of these individual companies, just pick your favorite ones and keep them, but you definitely don't need 90 individual stocks in your portfolio, and you most certainly don't need almost 30 different ETFs. That's just way too much over diversification. Even if you had like $1 million portfolio, you wouldn't need this many holdings. With that said, Odie, thank you so much for letting me review your portfolio, and no matter what, I'm still super happy to see you investing. So you could be doing a lot worse for yourself, I'll tell you that. And if there's ever anything I can do to help, feel free to shoot me an email. I'd love to hear from you. All right, guys, now portfolio number 2 belongs to my friend Jack, who's been investing for somewhere between 1 and 5 years. So also, relatively new to this investing stuff. And Jack has a very long time horizon. Jack doesn't hope to live off dividends for another 30 years or so. And every single month, Jack is investing about $150. And in his notes here, this is really cool, guys. Jack says, I'm 17 years old and invest nearly all the money I earn into the first portfolio listed in the spreadsheet. The second portfolio consists of money I received as gifts for my birthday, Christmas, and other occasions. Once I turn 18, I'll have access to this portfolio and plan to sell it to better diversify my primary portfolio. My goal for the end of the year is to reach $10,000. All right, so first and foremost, Jack, I think it is so awesome that you are thinking about this investing stuff at 17 years old. That's very rare, and so badly do I wish that I was thinking about this stuff when I was your age. So good job, my friend. You are definitely on the right path, and you're going to be a very wealthy man someday. Now, Jack has shared his portfolio with us here using my Dividend portfolio tracking spreadsheet, which you can start using for free. There is a link to download this spreadsheet in the description of the video. And looking at the overall stats here, between his 2 accounts, Jack has about $8,000 invested, which is very impressive for 17 years old. And looking at the dividend stats, Jack has about a 2.2% yield and a 4% dividend growth rate. But I know this is slightly skewed because of the one holding that is in Jack's second account. And I'll explain that more in just a moment. First, looking at portfolio number 1, this is what Jack referred to as his primary account. And as we can see, there are 16 different holdings in this account, with the only ETF being SCHD here. And jumping over to portfolio number 2, this one is a lot more straightforward. This one only has AAGTX, which looks to be some sort of target date retirement fund. And if we scroll over, we'll see that there are no dividend stats accounted for with this fund, because the spreadsheet has a lot of trouble pulling dividend information for mutual funds. It really only works best with stocks and ETFs. So that's why I was saying a moment ago that the dividend stats for the entire portfolio are a bit skewed, and it's because of this right here. And it does look like AAGTX is a dividend payer. Jack got about $43.50 from the fund in 2023 and almost double that, almost $80 last year in 2024. But anyway, guys, as far as my overall thoughts with this portfolio here, truth be told, I really don't have any crazy critiques. For the most part, I think this portfolio is looking very solid. Looking at the primary portfolio, I like the fact that pretty much all of these individual companies here are big blue chip companies. And obviously, you can't go wrong with SCHD. I'm very happy to see this one in the account too. With that said, maybe you could say SoFi is a bit questionable. Truth be told, I'm not super well versed with this company, so I don't have too strong of an opinion on it. And it does look like Jack is down a little bit with this one, down about 26%, but it's such a small position. It only makes up 1.6% of the portfolio, and Jack's only down about $30 on that. So really not going to be the end of the world to hold on to it. And with that, another one that I am a bit concerned about, honestly, is UPS. And I talked about UPS in one of my recent videos as a stock that I could potentially see a dividend cut in its near future. Just taking a quick look at some of the financials here, we can see that there was a really big jump in earnings per share between 2020 and 2021, and even 2022 was another very solid year. But since then, the earnings have really come back down, and the same is true with the free cash flow per share. A big jump right here in these 2 years, and since then, it's really come back down. And to coincide with that big jump in earnings per share and free cash flow, we can see that in 2022, UPS raised their dividend by a really big amount. They raised it by about 50% here, which as a shareholder was probably great to be on the receiving end of that. But as we saw, since that time, the earnings and the free cash flow have come back down. And with those declines in earnings and free cash flow, the payout ratios have just been on the up and up to the point where they're almost touching 100% for the earnings payout ratio. And at one point for the free cash flow payout ratio did reach over 100%. And right now they're really not too far off from that. But that aside, Jack, I think you've picked some pretty strong companies. And like I said, I like that you have SCHD in this account. And overall, I just think you've got a great looking portfolio. Now, I don't know what your plans are when you ultimately liquidate that target date retirement fund, but I don't think it would be a bad idea to allocate a lot of that money into more ETFs. I think you could put some more into SCHD. I don't think it'd be a bad idea to add some VOO or another S&P 500 fund into your portfolio. I think that'd be a nice complement to what you have going on here. But at any rate, Jack, thank you so much for letting me review your portfolio. You're doing a great job, my friend, so keep up the good work. Now guys, moving on to portfolio number 3. This one belongs to my friend Jose, who is less than 1 year into his investing journey. And Jose has a very long time horizon and hopes to live off dividends in 30 years or more. Now every single month, Jose is investing $750 into his portfolio. And in the notes here, Jose lists his streams of income. He's a truck driver and also has a chair and table rental business. Jose says, I live with my parents, so the only bill is electricity. My goal is to buy a house at 25 and retire in Mexico. And that's super cool. Every once in a while, I'll look up real estate in places like Cabo, and the idea of having a house there is pretty interesting to me. I really like visiting. I don't know anything about living there at all, but like I said, the idea is fun. Now, taking a look at Jose's portfolio, he has shared it with us over here on GetQuinn, which is another one of my favorite portfolio trackers. This one has one of the cleanest interfaces that I've ever seen. And like Snowball Analytics and my portfolio tracking spreadsheet, you can use GetQuinn for free. And there's a link to it in the description of the video and in the pinned comment. But anyway, Jose's portfolio is valued at about $13,400. And if we look at the diversification breakdown, we can see that about 55.4% of the portfolio is in stocks. We've got another 26.7% in ETFs, which leaves the remaining 17.9%, basically 18% of the portfolio sitting in cash. And as we can see, if we scroll down just a little bit, Jose's got about $2,400 in cash. So he's definitely built up some nice ammunition for all of this volatility that we've been seeing in the market these last couple of months. And I don't know what your plans are for this cash, Jose, but it's definitely good to have during a time like this. But anyway, if we continue scrolling down, taking a look at the rest of the holdings here, we'll see it's pretty well diversified. We've got 2 different ETFs, just VOO and QQQ, and then the rest of the holdings here are going to be individual companies. And kind of like we saw in Jack's portfolio, there's really not a bad one in the bunch. I mean, there's a lot of just big blue chip companies here if we continue scrolling down. With that said, though, I do see a couple of opportunities to do some consolidation in this portfolio and clean it up just a little bit. First and foremost, and some of you guys will probably disagree with me in the comments, and I think there's an argument to be made for both sides, but I don't think you need both VOO and QQQ in this portfolio. I think you'd be fine owning just one or the other. And if I had to pick one, I probably would just pick VOO, because when we look at the top 10 holdings, we can see that they're going to be pretty identical. Just take a look at these guys. We've got companies like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, the usual suspects here. And if we jump over to QQQ's top 10 holdings, like I said, it's pretty identical. So I don't necessarily think you need to own both of these. You'll be fine owning both, but I think you can get by just owning VOO. And also, because you already have exposure to companies like Meta, Berkshire Hathaway, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Netflix, if we scroll down even more, Tesla, Nvidia. Because you already have exposure to all of these companies through the 2 ETFs, I don't think you need to own them individually. I think it just adds some more redundancy to your portfolio. And that's the general theme that I'm seeing with this portfolio here. None of these holdings are bad, there's just a lot of redundancy. Or just trying to put it differently, you have exposure to a lot of these different companies in multiple ways in your portfolio when you don't really need to. Anyway, another area that I think you could stand to do some consolidating is right here with MasterCard, Visa, and American Express. You really can't go wrong with any of these 3 companies. They're all really strong companies to own, but I don't think you need all of them since they are so similar, especially Visa and MasterCard. The model for these 2 companies is pretty much exactly the same. American Express too, but American Express is an issuer of cards, whereas Visa and MasterCard are just the payment network. So there is a little bit of difference here with Amex, but still, I don't think you need to own all 3. Overall though, Jose, you could be doing a lot worse, man. These are just a few of the changes that I would would make if this was my portfolio. And nonetheless, I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to look at this, so thank you. Now guys, those were our 3 portfolio reviews of the day, and if you want to see how much money I've made with dividend investing so far, then check out this next video right over here. I've been investing for about 5 years now, and in this video, I'm breaking down the total performance of my portfolio since I started, along with all of the dividend payments I've received along the way. So click right over here to check that out, and I'll see you in the next one.